Definition of that, the Dom Giordano show. That's the question of the day in Philadelphia. I'm watching all these people after the looting last week, and I know people start to think, well, surely Larry Krasner will give a little bit of ground here till he heats off. He's not giving any ground. He's telling you exactly what he's going to do. He is going to say, if you're law abiding, God knows what the definition of that is, and you kind of got caught up in the looting, you get not even a slap on the wrist, and then we'll deal with the real criminals. When has he ever done that? We got a lot of sound from Krasner holding a news conference now. We'll play that. But first, I want to get into this right out of the box. It is the most consequential thing possible. And we got the best guy in America coming on at 2 o'clock today. Robert Cahaly, a favorite of everybody here, the one that predicted the Trump win in 2016. You may remember that, Trafalgar. They have not done a poll, surprisingly, on RFK Jr. being in a three-way race as an independent with Biden and Trump. What would happen? Now, RFK Jr., I believe, because he still is a Kennedy, still a Democrat, did a podcast where he claims he's done polling. I don't think so. And he says he would take more votes away from Trump than Biden. I think he's saying that because as a Democrat, he can't say he's in there to sink Biden, okay? On my own Twitter at DomShow1210, I just put up a simple poll. If you had the three of them there, Biden, Trump, RFK Jr. running as an independent, would you possibly vote for RFK Jr.? About 23% said yes. Now, it's unscientific. I don't know how those people self-identify, but the more you listen to RFK Jr., let's face it. I think for a lot of conservatives, RFK Jr. is useful because he's pushing back and attacking two things. He's attacking Biden. Two, the vaccine issues and related things around that. Those are the appeals. But when you got the real Trump there in an actual presidential election versus RFK Jr., who I've interviewed 7 or 8 times over the years, he's also the far left when it comes to climate, the environment, a whole host of issues. If you're voting for RFK Jr. over Trump, give us a call and tell us why that would be. What is it? What is it that would have you do that? 855-839-1210. I still think he takes away percentage points, or all we need is 1 or 2 percentage points in these swing states. If you're faced with that choice, are you saying finally an alternative to Trump seems to be the logic? In other words, it's not Biden. I'm not voting for a Democrat. But you're voting for a guy, though, who the word eccentric is putting it mildly. Is that what you're voting for? Are you voting as a protest vote then against Biden and against Trump? Never Trumper? Toward what point, if you do that, then essentially you're helping Biden? I think Trump benefits by this. I think people are too smart for the room that are telling you something else. RFK Jr., though, claiming he has polled this and he sees it that he beats Trump more than he hurts Biden in this. Now, one thing that could happen, I thought about, if Kennedy is serious, Dan, and it's October 9th, 1 week from today, he'll be over at Independence Hall. Boy, I wish we were still in the old station. I could yell out the window some questions. But he's going to be doing it here in Philadelphia, and he is going to announce as an independent. I don't know what they're trying to do. I can imagine the Biden people, some third party, is telling him no way. Why are they doing that if everybody's convinced, or some people are convinced, he's going to hurt Trump more than Biden? Democrats do not want, and not only that, the debate. Trump in his own way will handle RFK Jr. I'm not saying on policy because RFK Jr. is a policy wonk. He knows policy, but Trump will deflect. What would Biden do in the middle of that? Can you imagine with both Trump and RFK Jr. firing at Biden? Oh, my God. calling a timeout. I'm not doing any more of this. Let me out of here. Walking off the stage. My God. 2 or 3 debates like that. Now, that's must-see TV to see the 3 of them on stage. So 855-839-1210. If you are a conservative, if you are someone who has voted or considered voting for Trump, why would you vote for our RFK Jr.? What would the appeal be? The eccentricity, the wild stuff? I mean, you already got the wild stuff with Trump. How can you go wilder? Dan?
There's definitely something to him that Trump really built his empire and winning over a lot of Bernie bros and independents and such and moderates on the, anti-establishment narrative. And everything that's happened in these past lot of years would suggest that Trump to these people might be part of that establishment. So then you have RFK Jr. out there who's speaking out against pharmaceutical companies. He's speaking out against everything that seems to cover the butt of the, quote, establishment. Now you have another candidate who might be their hero. Their person with the spear.
I don't underestimate my favorite saying in talk radio that I coined: conspiracy is better than sex. Let's face it. That's what it is. This guy crawls. I mean, Trump says some wild stuff, but he doesn't know enough. You know what I mean? He says it in passing. Everything's a glancing blow. RFK Jr., everything's a conspiracy. He's beyond eccentric. I think it starts with the vaccine. I told you the 2 things, the vaccine stuff, and 2, he's a thorn in the side of Biden. That got some appeal. After that, I don't see it. Are you turning on Trump when you got the real thing in Trump? And what do you got in RFK Jr.? You got this melange of conspiracy on left and right. And he is a big-time climate activist, among others. Look, people forgive things if there's something magnetic they want, and they might go for it. So in the end, though, I think it takes away more from Biden. People see the Kennedy name. He is more liberal, things associated with that. Now, would this propel Democrats to force Biden out? My take is now, has been, is now, and will be, you're not forcing Biden out of there. Guy he's not going. I mean, what are you going to do to get him out of there? And you know who you really can't force out of there? Dr. Jill Biden. You think she's given that up after all this stuff? I don't think so. Now, if it were Michelle Obama and they tried some kind of move, but would that, can they force Biden out for Gavin Newsom? I don't see that. I don't see that working. But that's the theory. If RFK's in there, then would that change the Democrats having to put somebody else in there versus Biden because they're afraid of RFK Jr.?
Biden was asked about this over the weekend, Dom. I had the response.
Yes.
I got hairy legs.
Thank you. All right, 855-839-1210. You get on board. We are going to talk with Scott Perry, the head of the Freedom Caucus. Now, look, I'm not a Kevin McCarthy guy because he's, blows with the wind and all that. But this Matt Gaetz guy is idiotic. Even with the hair and the blow dryer and all that, I can't forget.
He's really like a Simpsons character.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's probably working with the Democrats. It's just all about attention.
It's like a used car salesman from The Simpsons.
Yes. Who in the world supports this guy? But we'll ask Scott Perry about that. Let's go to Patrick in Burlington on Talk Radio 1210. Hey, Patrick, welcome in.
Hey, Dom, how you doing? The reason why I think a lot of people find appeal to RFK is because he tells the truth. I mean,
he does.
He doesn't beat around the bush. Yeah, he does. He does. I mean, about the vaccine, about COVID, about how the lockdowns were bad, about how, he tells the truth about his father and his uncle being killed by the CIA.
Well, how does he know that? I mean, come on. So you got to be kidding.
Does he know that?
Now, look, you're proving my point, I think. Go ahead.
If your dad was murdered, would you investigate it?
Sure.
So wouldn't you think you'd be the best to know what happened to him?
Well, look, no. I think this guy is an eccentric that spins one conspiracy after another. And I think
like what?
It's constant conspiracy. It's not enough to talk about the lockdown and all. I mean, Trump does that too. It's wild conspiracies.
Trump is the one that supported the lockdowns.
He did not support
Trump supported
lockdowns.
the lockdown. Yes, he did. He said he told people to shut down the beaches. Yes, he did.
So,
He supported
wow.
Fauci.
So now, did you vote for Trump before?
No, you know what? Last time I didn't vote. You know why? Because New Jersey.
That's it. I'm not talking to a guy that doesn't vote. Sorry. Sue me. Take me to where I'm not talking to a guy, Dan, that doesn't vote in that last election. Why would I talk to a guy? I wish identify that before you call in. Now, there's a perfect example, Danny. I see there's a fringe group out there that just loves constant conspiracy, wildness, eccentricity. And Robert Kennedy Jr. has that. And the vaccine stuff is a lot further than the average person on just and vaccines in general. It's ridiculous.
I don't think he made his point well, but I think his point is a good point.
Which is?
He's a truth seeker, RFK.
Yeah.
Maybe what he's saying isn't necessarily always the truth.
Right.
There's a lot of questions before, coronavirus with his questions about vaccines and such. It goes far back. But he is always searching for the truth. He wants to uncover the lies. And when you have a society, a culture, a populace where mistrust is one of the biggest things, mistrust in government entities. A guy who's out there saying he wants to break that all down and essentially expose what's going on, that's appealing.
Okay, I think that Trump says it in a different way. So this is a newer, shinier
I think it becomes,
though,
can Trump run on that again? Because he had the opportunity to break everything down and he just became intertwined in the cobwebs.
I don't see it. He put 3 members on the Supreme Court that have revolutionized the country is one. And I do think Trump's personality flaw, and it's a big one, he gets distracted. He doesn't drill down on the remedy to that is DeSantis, not RFK Jr. I mean, imagine an RFK Jr. presidency. I know on paper it's exciting. Oh, man, conspiracies today. We're going to expose Bigfoot in the White House.
Great reference here from Minnie on YouTube.
Yes.
YouTube.com/at 1210WPHT. We always have our Dining with Dom and Minnie's regular in the chat there. She goes, RFK Jr. is Fox Mulder, according to Dan from X-Files.
I told you that I once, when we were going to a Talkers, Dan, we stayed at the hotel in Secaucus where the X-Files were holding their convention. Oh, man. You haven't lived till you see their, I just had an eavesdrop on their events.
But it goes so deep that RFK is even open to finding out questions about the aliens. We want answers, man.
Yeah, but his answers are always going to be something wild. I mean, that's the gimmick. That's the thing. Is that truth-seeking? I don't think so.
Is it wild or is the truth just wild?
No, there you go. That's right. Yes. All right, let's all be truth tellers here, Dan. When you go home, tell Maisie exactly what you think. And then tomorrow, come in with a tape of that.
You're beautiful and the best wife ever.
There you go.
That's exactly what I think, Don.
All right, bro, that's it. Okay, well, let's move into some other categories than that. But anyhow, Scott Perry, Congressman Scott Perry is here. House Caucus, Freedom Caucus. What the heck happened over the weekend? His take on that, McCarthy, Ukraine, that's a big story over the weekend. No more money for Ukraine yet, but they're not giving up on it. 855-839-1210 here on Talk Radio 1210. It is Dom time. It's always a good day when we can welcome back to the show Congressman Scott Perry, who is the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, which are even more in the news at this point. I don't know if he has a lot of experience being a fire marshal. That would seem to be needed in Washington right now. Let's go to the congressman. Congressman Perry, welcome back to the show.
Well, it's great to be with you. And you do have to wonder if you confuse a fire alarm with a opening, a doorway. I don't know. I'm not saying what your qualifications should be to be in Congress, but that seems to be something you might be concerned about.
Yeah, and look, we've talked a lot about January 6th. It's not January 6th, certainly, but if his intention was to trigger that alarm, that somehow or another they needed more time to read the bill. You and I both agree that's one of the problems. All these bills thrown at the last moment. But Democrats do that as much or more than anybody. You don't get to pull a fire alarm to get more time to read it.
No, and he wasn't pulling the fire alarm to read the bill. They could care less what was in the bill. They were trying to wait on the Senate to send over the bill with the Ukraine funding in it. They had no intention of reading any bill. That's what they were delaying for that. They were pulling every trick in the book. I mean, they called for a motion to adjourn and then one by one filed into the well to vote one at a time to drag it on because you can't close the vote as long as somebody is in the well of the House that wants to vote. So they walked down there. They each have electronic voting cards, but they all walked down there and picked up a paper voting card and held it up one at a time to drag that process out for a couple hours. So, I get the game, but, that's a federal offense. And if one of the members of your audience or you did that, you'd likely, you'd probably, there's a good chance you'd be in jail right now, quite honestly.
Right. And again, the point I was making about January 6th is I am rule of law also, and some people got what they deserved there, but other people seem to wander into this. We know that. And some of them, if they went before the Trump judge, particularly the judge in the Washington case, Congressman, they seem to have gotten really harsh treatment. Here you have a guy that was seemingly doing this for the purpose you mentioned. Well, then we ought to cite the same kind of thing. There's got to be a full investigation with this guy for no other reason than to make them realize when you go overboard, as that January 6th committee did, there can be repercussions on everybody.
That's exactly right. We understand, that sometimes things don't go our way, but none of that kind of stuff is ever in order. And of course, having the pendulum swing the other way and using the forces of the federal government, the awesome and kind of unstoppable power of the federal government to persecute others while then turning your head, when your side commits the same essential act. The American people are completely done with that. They're done with it.
Absolutely. So let me give you a shot. Overall, you're in the thick of it this weekend. What has come out of this now that you'd like to emphasize after the verdict shutdown and the CR and all that? What does Scott Perry emphasize?
What I'm emphasizing is that for essentially 50 years, since 1974, we've had this process where we get a top line spending number. That's your household budget. How much money you're going to have to spend for the year. And then we're supposed to do 12 spending bills that, when you total them up, equal that top line household budget. That process I've just described has happened 4 times in the nearly 50 years, and the last time it happened was 1996. We have got to force these two institutions to do what it was designed to do, so that citizens can see how their members vote, what they vote for, what they vote against. Let them explain it, and stop giving all the power to 4 people, in the House and the Senate in Washington, D.C., to give us these huge spending bills that include all kinds of stuff that A, we don't want, B, we can't afford, and put us in a position of you either vote for this piece of garbage or we accuse you of shutting the government down. That also has to end. And the only way to do that is for each body to pass its bills like it's supposed to, like the statute says, let the chips fall where they may, let everybody see where everybody votes, reconcile those 2 bills, and then let's move forward with a government that's probably imperfect, but not spending us into bankruptcy. That's what we should be doing.
That is, you would think that should get widespread agreement. Only the real swamp people would differ with that. Now, the silver lining to me so far, you know better, you're in the throes of it, can handicap this. No more spending for Ukraine. I saw over the weekend a report that we're actually helping cut down their national debt while running our own up. It is stunning. You just can't write this stuff. But that had
That's
to
right.
feel pretty good, though. There are an increasing majority of Republicans that are not going to continue to fund this.
Well, that's exactly right. But let me just back up to the amendment you spoke of. So there was an amendment on this bill to pay for some of Ukraine's sovereign debt, which they incurred prior to the war with Russia. And we lost that vote, which means that more members voted to borrow money from China to pay for Ukraine's sovereign debt than voted against it. And I would just say this, look, we know they have a debt problem, but my goodness, so do we. And if we're going to borrow money from China to pay somebody's debt, let's at least pay ours first, right? You don't go into debt to pay somebody else's debt before you pay your own. Yet that's what happened. And those who are on the record to vote for that, well, God bless them. They should, if they got some reasonable explanation, I'd love to hear it. But I certainly didn't vote to keep doing that. So what we're talking about is we've stripped out $300 million that was in the Department of Defense spending bill and made that a separate vote so everybody can see. And like you said, the majority of Republicans voted against that. All Democrats, every single Democrat voted for that. So that's $300 million. But unfortunately, that pales in comparison to what the Senate wants to send and intends to send and will send, which is literally billions and billions of dollars for more Ukraine assistance. And let me just say this as well. All of us side with the people of Ukraine. We want to be helpful. We disagree with Russia. I think generally most people think that Vladimir Putin should be at a war crimes tribunal. That having been said, our taxpayers cannot afford this blank check going to this effort when we have no idea how the money's being used, where it's going, or what the outcome. We don't even know what they want the outcome to be. We don't know what the goal is. Yet every couple months we're demanded upon to spend billions of dollars. And where is Europe? Why isn't Europe leading this charge? Why does America have to do it?
That is very well put. Now, tough question of the day. I'm not a fan of Kevin McCarthy per se, but, I get an alliance there, a compromise, et cetera. And it seems to me that some members of the caucus are really out of line making this the issue now. I haven't seen you on this as chair of the Freedom Caucus, though you're a major player. What can you tell us about the McCarthy situation?
Well, the McCarthy situation is this. He deserves the ire that he has earned by his failure to manage and lead us to where we should be. We are in this position of not having the funding bills done. It's not all him, right? Because we each have to take a vote, but you have to put the bills up for a vote. They've been done since early summer for the most part, except two, and they haven't made it to the floor. That is his fault, and he should be accountable for that. And so he deserves everything he's dealing with right now. The other problem is that the other thing he agreed to was to move the 12 spending bills that I just spoke of. We're going to be moving one today. The only way that they keep moving is if there's a speaker in place. And while I think that he deserves the ire and deserves the scrutiny and the accountability that comes with failure, what I'm more interested in is a win for the American people. And so, if nothing else, even though he may deserve what's coming to him, the timing of that is important. And this is not the right time, in my opinion, because in 45 days, if we don't have the spending bills done because we have spent all the time trying to figure out how to kick a speaker out and how to hire a new one, the American people aren't going to be happy with that victory because there's no victory for them in it.
That is exactly the conundrum here. I couldn't agree more. And I think, some people on CNN yesterday, et cetera, are not looking at the big picture then. I guess I'd say it that way. And I think that you are.
Yeah, they I'm sure want to foment. I don't know what they're saying on that network, but they like to foment those who are unhappy with the speaker, and it's not just those on the right side of the conference. There are people across the spectrum of the conference, of the Republican body in Congress, that are unhappy with him due to a multitude of reasons. Let's just put it like that. Some are more personal, some are only professional, what have you. But the timing that you do, I often say that what you do in life is just as important as when you do it in life.
Exactly.
And like I said, he deserves the accountability that he has coming to him, but the American people don't deserve to be punished along with him.
Well put. Well put. We'll see what happens. Congressman, thank you. Thanks for coming on today, as always.
Thank you very much. God bless you and your audience.
All right, there's Congressman Scott Perry. Dan, I take him as a no vote then. Look, this guy, Matt Gaetz, is a clownish spectacle now, and he's all over the place with stuff. This is not, Perry's right. Focusing in on getting McCarthy out of here at this point, then going through all that again. Is that really where we should be? All right, 855-839-1210. You can get on board. Big NFL conspiracy that I'll get to. I don't think it is. I don't think it's actually happening, but now there's, conspiracy always finds its way in there. Let's go to Lenny and Pittman first here on Talk Radio 1210. Hey, Lenny.
Tom, how are you? I'm
Good.
going to get right to the point. Mr. Bowman had a Hank Johnson moment. Hank Johnson, honestly, God, remember that the island was going to tip over for too much weight?
Oh, yeah, our favorite, yes.
Yeah. Now, in my opinion, only in my opinion, I'm worried about him actually voting if he did get in the door, because the word yay is almost like nay. He might not understand which one means yes and which one means no. With that being said, how can this guy read bills and make decisions, outright lying, and saying I thought it would open the door? Really, Dom? I mean, really?
Well put. Thank you, Lenny. No, that's not going to fly. It seems to me it's obvious that you heard what Congressman Perry said. He thinks it's more the money for Ukraine they were waiting coming over there from the Senate, and he was trying to hold it up for that. Got to have full investigation on this. As far I put it up on Twitter, no, it's not January 6th, but there were people tried and convicted severely, some of them on January 6th, who wandered into things. If this guy, if it's clear, is pulling a fire alarm to delay this vote because he knows what happens in a bureaucracy, all kinds of buildings clear, everything's up in arms, and it gives them more time to get the Ukraine money coming over from the Senate to try to lock that in. They're crazed over Ukraine, just crazed over we're not going to stop them with all this spending. Why? I'll play you Lindsey Graham coming up and Larry Krasner over the weekend. Wait until you hear what he said about the law-abiding people who looted. Really? That seems to be an oxymoron, Larry. 855-839-1210. Dan, we haven't introduced the side question. Let's take a minute.
Yeah, we got to
do
do that. Come on.
Yeah, it's wow. It gets caught up there with Scott Perry. So you're the architect of this one. Notice I always.
Yeah.
We'll see if it goes and write that one down. We have to keep score here. What do we have today?
Yeah, so last year we all became very familiar with this song, Callum Scott's Dancing on My Own. And Callum Scott came out and said if the Phillies win the wild card, he'll come to Philadelphia and do a concert, sing the song live. So it does look like, again, the Phillies are going to use this as their playoff song for a second year in a row. Not a horrible song. It gets stuck in your head.
Though. What is it?
It's so random. Yeah. It is random. So randomness can definitely play into this. But Dom, today I want to ask the listeners, callers, what's the song that the Phillies should instead be using for their Phillies, playoff run this time? What's the song, the hype song that the Philadelphia Phillies should be using in their locker room on the loudspeakers instead of this Dancing on My Own crap?
All right. Well, Rocky's not. We're not going to do that.
Yeah.
That's more football, anyhow. Baseball centric, Dan, is more of a skill game.
Yeah.
Not you got to be intense, but it's small muscle groups and all that. It's not running over top of somebody,
Yeah.
Or it's not ferocity on defense. You do that, you might miss the ball. It's a little bit different. So what do you say?
So I don't want anything too on the nose. Center field is good.
Right.
There are some like baseball centric songs. I like the songs. I think Dancing on My Own, the idea of it was, we're back in the playoffs. We're dancing on our own here. This is our turn. I don't know. It's a stretch, but I would assume that's the idea. So I like something that kind of fits in some way, but is out of the box, Dom. So I'm gonna take a classic standard off the board. How about yeah, Mama said knock you out, LL Cool J. Don't call it a comeback. We're here. We've been here the whole year.
What did Biden call him? LLJ Cool?
LLJ Cool, he did.
Or no, LLJ Cool J. He gave him 2 J's. I think that's what he did last week. Yes.
Yeah, but that'll be my choice today, Dom. Don't call it a comeback. We've been here for years.
I'm deferring to you on that one. That's good. But this dancing on my own thing just Remember last year what it was like? Oh my God.
It was huge.
Yeah.
And people singing at the top of their lungs.
So he's going to sing that tomorrow night, you think?
I think he said if we win the Wild. I don't know. Is there any more news on that? I didn't see.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's 855-839-1210. You get a line. AT&T and Verizon Wireless. You got it? So what would you say the Phillies should adopt? And you heard Dan's criteria. They're a good one. Sort of on point for baseball for this Red October, but also a little bit more, just has its own flair about it. All right. They're going to go with this. So I guess we got to live with it. At least it's not Meek Mill, although I think his song fits football a little bit better, I guess. All right, 855-839-1210. AT&T and Verizon Wireless. You just push pound 1210, get in on that. And are you enamored so much with RFK Jr., you would vote for him as an independent in a 3-way race? What's the magic there? Dan sees him as a truth teller. I just see him as an eccentric guy, and I've interviewed him multiple times. And, it always comes back to that. And Dan, I don't forget, he came to our climate summit. Yes, this station had a climate summit for some reason at Holy Family.
What?
And he came driven. He was a guest major speaker. He's sitting in the back of a big black limousine, just one person being driven in. I just thought that was
where this is from?
No, that's from a conservative group that doesn't believe in the the far out climate change. And this was a protester. And my job as the moderator was to calm that down. And I did. And that's why she erupted. Is there a question in there anywhere? 855-839-1210. And we were like 6 stories up, and she said we're going to be underwater. All right, 855-839-1210. That's how you get in on Talk Radio 1210. Let's talk NFL and FanDuel. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel in partnership with Valley Forge Casino, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line, point spreads, player props, live betting, and you get paid quickly. That's the bottom line. So if you're thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. As I said, player props are a lot of fun, overs and unders. So visit FanDuel.com/Dom, D-O-M, to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. FanDuel Sportsbook is the official partner of 1210 WPHD. You have to be 21 plus, present in Pennsylvania. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? 1-800-GAMBLER.
The great artists of our time representing the groundbreaking legacy of hip-hop in America, LL Cool J. By the way, that man's got biceps bigger than my thighs. I think he's spent. And MC Light, both of you, thank you. Because they both have the light off on the mic, you know you're all here to listen to the new edition. Mike Bivens, 40 years producing music that lifts our soul.
Unbelievable. What is it always with the biceps? People are flexing for Biden and they're bigger than my legs.
Kind of offensive to call him boy, too.
Well, that's why he quickly said man. You know, he always says man there. Yeah. That boy won't have anything. He just anything. Dan, you can imagine what's going inside Biden's mind. The neuro connections. They're saying, say words, say anything. Oh, my God.
It's bigger than my thighs. I think he's spent.
My goodness. Every day there's another. All right. So 855-839-1210. So with looting last week, we've seen some of the usual stuff. Meatball's attorney, who Dan is trying to get on, says it's intentional racism because Meatball's mugshot didn't look good. She has a tear in her mugshot and her hair is askew. Does the lady realize, Dan, the most unflattering photo probably?
Do they want like a makeup artist to come in and touch her up before the mugshot?
Yeah, the hair, makeup, blow a little bit. Now, what expression do we want to have Meatball in this? Can you imagine?
What's the phrase that you use, Mr. DeMille?
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
Yeah.
Yes, that's from Sunset Boulevard.
There you go.
So Larry Krasner, though, not only not giving an inch, he is at a summit, a crime summit at St. Joe's with the Jesuits, with 10 people there. The police chief says the right things about we're going to enforce the law. Krasner actually says, Dan, we're not going to let some judge disturb the peace. Does anybody in Philadelphia, other people that do what I do, not hear? Don't tell me about law, rule of law, and civility and Trump and January 6th. Krasner is saying the judge disturbed the peace because he overcharged, and this judge is heroic. I don't care what anyone says. Someone's going to have to prove to me just because they don't like what we allegedly have seen here. I don't think we've seen everything, particularly the officer yelling gun, gun. And we haven't seen where that is in Kensington and the whole thing that we've talked about. Listen to Krasner, though. He claims there's a caste system, meaning the cops get away with murder. And if you're law-abiding and you were a law-abiding looter, you're going to get almost nothing. So where does that bring us with Meatball, who, as far as we know, has never been arrested? It's got 5 felony counts against her. All right, here's how Larry Krasner sounded at St. Joe's.
As we know, free speech is not the same thing as breaking into stores and stealing people. And the people who have been involved in committing crimes during this unrest will be addressed individually.
At a summit on crime Saturday at St. Joe's University, we caught up with Commissioner Stanford and DA Larry Krasner and asked both men to comment about what's next for the people already under arrest.
We're going to prosecute people in an even-handed way. We're not going to let any judge who thinks there is a caste system and some people get better treatment than others. We're not going to let any judge disturb the peace of this city.
The DA calls it individual justice and says everyone involved in the looting will be looked at on a case-by-case basis.
We'll look carefully to see whether this is a one-off situation and they're fundamentally law-abiding people, hold them accountable one way, or whether they are criminals. And they're all about taking advantage of some sort of unrest for their own benefit, and they will be prosecuted another way.
Commissioner Stanford says he knows people are frustrated and want justice that's
not based on any one of our personal ideologies. It's just coming down to what the city needs and what so many community members are asking for.
That's Fox 29 reported. Notice what he said. What a tableau there, split screen. Stanford saying the right thing, not our own ideologies, but what the law is. Krasner saying, I don't care what you say the law is. Now, I did see that in Harrisburg, Republicans are trying to get added penalties for rioting. And we told you on Friday, one of the bills that they have is to say if you're a felon caught with a gun under state law, you're going to go to jail, as it should be. Break down what Krasner is saying here already, though. If he can finagle any way, shape, or form to say you're law-abiding, basically, whatever that means, then whatever you did in this looting thing is a minor thing. Let's think about this. This is making international news day after day after day. And I'm watching Dan Inside Story, and I have some friends that were on the panel, et cetera, and all. I just don't get the tenor of the media seeing Krasner as we do. I see him as this existential threat, second to none. They keep on pretending. Well, what's wrong in Philadelphia? He is. Now, we have Steve Keeley once again reporting. You may not have seen this, Dan. 14-year-old girl driving a stolen car. 14, a female. 15-year-old, she crashes into multiple things. He's got a whole account. It's almost a page of how many things she crashes into. 15-year-old thrown from the car, and he's dead. But a 14-year-old girl stealing a car now. I mean, that's fairly rare, you would think, right? This is Krasner land. Now, last Thursday's, thanks to Philly Crime Update for posting it too, Dan put together a heck of a summary of that week. You can still find it on my Twitter or the station at Dom Show 1210. We'll do it again this Thursday around 3:45 or so. But Krasner, I think normal humans just can't withstand this guy. It's going to take somebody who thinks and acts as I do, that I don't care what he does, I'm going to go further until there is some relief from this. I mean, look at what Trump's going through this morning. He may lose $250 million plus. We're hearing numbers, $500 million or so, and not be able to practice his business in Detroit. This Letitia, the attorney general in New York, is a big-time sore, almost as much as Larry Krasner, and she is hell-bent to do nothing but go after Trump. Meanwhile, allowing crime to proliferate to unheard-of levels. I don't know who I can tell you out there that I see that gets this enough. Now, Sherelle Parker is going to be in studio, candidate for mayor, and David O's already said what he would do. And again, I think they're both pretty tough-minded politicians and well-intentioned on this. They got to realize, though, that this is the heavyweight fight of your life. I mean, people just keep on thinking, well, Larry Krasner surely is just going to prosecute these people. He's not going to come up with this. And where's the Inquirer? The Inquirer, Dan, now is trying to reach millennials like you. They're spending over $1 million rebranding themselves. Why would anyone? I mean, what is in there? Over the weekend, a couple people sent me stuff. I still have not seen coverage in the Philadelphia Inquirer, the, quote, paper of record, on Bowman pulling the fire alarm. Now, we were looking for it. Now, unless they did it yesterday, I don't know. But for a good long time, and Dan, you sometimes, this is one of your shticks. You look and say, how many hours? The Inquirer still hasn't written about this or said anything about it. That's intentionality. They are intentionally withholding information. Why? They're looking for some narrative that fits, something they can write about January 6th or something. But imagine Krasner saying, if they're law-abiding individuals, then, that's one thing. You just get a pass. How about all those businesses, Larry? He held a news conference today, and Ralph Cipriano, who is his foil, the guy that always questions him, came up, Dan. And what did Cipriano want to know about?
I think it was related to Officer Mark Dial, but Larry essentially had a snarky response of paragraphs. Are you reading paragraphs, or are you going to ask me a question, that kind of thing? I have that audio, but I also, Dom, I didn't put it up on the board yet, but I just saw that the Inquirer over the weekend, there's only like 400 views on it, spoke with Sherelle Parker, and she had some comments that she made about the vandalism, break-ins that we saw here in Philadelphia that I can play back that audio.
Yeah, please, let's hear that.
So you want that one first?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's listen to Sherelle first.
The shooting death, it shocked my conscience and the conscience of the city. However, factually, It is the responsibility of our judicial system to determine guilt or innocence in any kind of criminal case. No family should ever have to go through what this family is going through right now. And I want to do any and everything that I can to lift them up. We have to work on police accountability. That's why this decision to choose who will be the next police commissioner here in the city of Philadelphia is by far the most important decision that the next mayor of this city will make. For those people who use this tragic shooting death and the judicial results that were made public yesterday as an excuse to commit crime. I remember hearing our managing director, Tumar Alexander. He referred to those that engaged in illegal activity as criminal opportunists. They were not the family. And I want that to be clear. And I don't want us to equate the ability to peacefully assemble.
All right, look, I'm in agreement with all that, Dan, but I'll tell you the part I'm not in agreement with. This judge is heroic in this. This clown, Larry Krasner, completely overcharged in this. There was new evidence in this. And saying this is just a slap in the face and two-tier justice and she's disturbing the peace is ridiculous. This judge doesn't have a track record of doing any of it. They're trying to chill any future judge. If you don't nail the cops in Philadelphia, they're saying, then there's going to be looting. There's going to be this situation. Isn't that the message? How in the world does the guy charged with law enforcement, Larry Krasner, claim that this judge disturbed the peace? Just think about that, how vicious this guy is in talking about a judicial decision. I'm a talk radio host. He's allegedly a prosecutor.
Back to that Inquirer Sherelle Parker clip, Dom. Very selectively edited. I don't know if those are exactly her words because you can see jump cuts as she's speaking. But it's a 3.5-minute long clip, and there's just one little portion that I just wanted for everyone to hear, just since it kind of paints a different picture as to where she was going with it as well.
That you desire to do so. That should never be questioned. But those who sought to use this as an opportunity to commit crimes in our city, they should be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. We have to make sure that we bring some order back to our city. People in every neighborhood deserve to feel safe.
Yes. Whatever statistics they give you, there's no doubt. 14-year-old girl, kid dead, stolen car, crashing into everything. Just another example of this. There is no order in Philadelphia. There's not. And the new mayor can go a long way to restoring that. But to have any kind of decent sense of it, they got to challenge this guy. 855-839-1210. That's how you get in. You know, it's so important to make sure our families have the essentials, food, shelter, and of course, pure, clean drinking water. There's a lot of news about drinking water these days. Just do what I did. Count on Martin Water Conditioning to secure your family's drinking water. Now, the Martin folks were just out to the Giordano Estates, and they love showing you in detail exactly what they're doing and how this works. I mean, I'm amazed when people are this passionate about what they do. The Connecticut system improves all the impurities from your water. What comes out of the tap? Crystal clear, all natural water. Not only is it the best tasting water ever, it provides peace of mind knowing that your family's water is pure and clean. The Martin Water Conditioning family, passionate about water. They'll put their 46 years of experience to work for you. They have customer service, attention to detail, spotless. And when they give the test and they show you exactly what they're doing, you're going to be amazed. Here's the bonus deal, too. You contact Martin Water Conditioning and mention DOM, D-O-M, 2023. Get an exclusive offer, DOM 2023. Click on martinwater.com or call 800-887-7555, 800-887-7555. right, it is Dom time, big 1 o'clock hour. Coming up, what are we calling the tush push now? And how did that start? I see a pattern here of people pushing back on this. And is there a conspiracy? If Taylor Swift is there rooting for the Kansas City Chiefs, you're not going to let them lose. People like conspiracy mongers throwing that one around. All right, 855-839-1210. You get a line. I want to play you two coming up. Lindsey Graham. We just talked with Scott Perry over the weekend. Over the weekend, they did stop this ridiculous funding for Ukraine. But I'll play you what Lindsey Graham says, what the Inquirer says about this. Why is this in their mind? These unceasing wars. Is it just because they know Trump is on the other side and Republicans have turned that way? Is that what makes it go? What is their stake in it? Do they really want to see Americans, and not just American resources, around the world dying in these constant warfares? You would think that didn't used to be their stance. What's changed? All right, we'll get into all that here on Talk Radio 1210.